G'day everyone. Before we hop into today's vlog, I just want to remind you to please hit that subscribe button. From now on, I'm going to be putting out daily online poker vlogs. We're going to be tracking my process as I play these 6 max online poker cash games. Make sure you hit subscribe so you get the vlogs as they come out. But for now, onto the vlog. G'day everyone, welcome back to the vlog. It is currently 6:30 a.m. here in Melbourne and I've just woken up getting ready for a big day of playing 1-2 online 6 max cash games. My apartment right now, everything's sort of all over the place and cluttered. We are preparing for the move. This time next week we'll be in the new place, which I'm pretty excited for, but just a bit stressed getting everything packed before we can move it in a few days' time. Despite all that though, I'm still going to find time today to put in 1,500 hands of online poker. Don't really have that much time to waste, so let's get a quick feed in, then we'll go into the game. Let's go. Welcome back everyone. It is currently about 10 to 4 in the afternoon here in Melbourne and I've just wrapped up my second poker session for the day. Was able to get in a total of 6 hours and 10 minutes of play today for a grand total of 1,546. So yet again, we do beat the 1,500 hand goal, which obviously always stoked when I do manage to do that. In terms of results from the session, I did end up winning 498, which obviously, I want to focus on results and get emotionally attached to them, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't happy about that result. In terms of my gameplay grade, however, also really happy, giving myself an A for today. I really do think I keyed in and focused on all the different tables I was playing at, had a read of every single opponent. Like initially it was just like a superficial, are they loose passive, tight passive, etc. But then after a while playing, accruing a few hand histories with each individual player, I was able to make more nuanced read, dial in more to what they were doing, and I feel like I exploited their strategies pretty well, despite running like not the best in some high EV spots. I did get pocket kings all in pre-flop and lost. Stuff like that did happen a few times. I feel like one thing I really did well in multiple spots today is I really value bet thinly when it was a really good spot to do so. And the only reason I was able to value bet so well is because I made that read that my opponents were calling very wide and did not believe me. So it was a good spot to go ahead and value bet for thin spots when I might have been too timid to, if I wasn't really as dialed in and paying attention. And I think the fact that I did have a big win today is a reflection of that. So definitely earned the A for today. Like I said, the thing I think I did the best at today and that really did make me a lot of extra winnings is the fact that I was able to dial in, focus what my opponents were doing, but more specifically, I was actually able to value bet really well against opponents who I thought were calling far too often. And this next hand is a pretty good example of what I mean. So let's get into it. The action is on a loose passive player under the gun and they go ahead and raise it up to 4. And the action falls to me in the cutoff and I have pocket 10s. I think I've got a few options here, none of which are folding. Definitely not going to fold pocket 10s in this spot, but I do have an interesting decision whether I want to just call or 3-bet here. The reasons I would like just calling are we are facing an under the gun open, which typically is going to be a tighter range, and we can definitely be behind with pocket 10s here. So just calling and getting to play the hand in position with a hand that is as strong as pocket 10s makes a lot of sense. Playing against a 4-bet with this hand, it's pretty dicey to be honest. So that's why I would potentially consider just calling. I decide to 3-bet, however, I go ahead and make it 13. And the reason for this is actually because my opponent is loose and they're definitely opening a wider range of hands than a typical under the gun player would. And the fact that they're opening a wide range and then their loose passive tendencies on top of that, I think they're actually likely to call with a wide range of hands. And when an opponent is calling 3-bets with a wide range, particularly out of position, you definitely want to 3-bet all of your stronger hands that you can have, and pocket 10s is in that range. I would definitely say I'll probably even 3-bet pocket 9s, pocket 8s, even hands like ace 10 offsuit. Maybe I would 3-bet against a player like this, just because they're going to call so often out of position. It's just going to make a great scenario for you post flop. Pocket 10s is definitely going to be one of those hands against this opponent type specifically. So I go ahead and make it 13, and then the action gets back to the under the gun player, and they do call. So we go heads up to a flop, which is 7-6-5 rainbow. Under the gun checks it over to me, and I think in this spot there is actually a lot of merit to checking this board as the 3-better. This board's actually a lot better for my opponent's range, since they're probably going to have more hands that are straights or a set. Obviously they're going to be raising up pocket 7s pre-flop and then calling my 3-bet, saying pocket 5s and pocket 6s. Also, a 9-8 suited, I would actually fold that to a 3-bet, but this opponent is absolutely not folding 9-8 pre-suited pre-flop, so they definitely have all of the really strong hands in their range here. As a result of that, I actually think it's a really good spot to check a lot of your stronger hands on this board, just because my opponent is likely to bet so many turns, since this is a great board for them to bluff on, obviously, and my range looks a bit weaker when I do check. They might put me on an ace-king, ace-queen type hand. So in general, I do think it is a good spot to check pocket 10s here a lot of the time. However, in this specific spot against a loose passive opponent, I actually think it's a really good spot to just bet off for value. If my opponent does have a hand like ace-5 or 6-4 suited, something like that, I think they're very likely to call my c-bet. I just think it's better to inflate the pot now, whilst it's very, very likely that we're ahead when their calling range does include a lot of those weaker one-pair hands. Against a more aggressive opponent, I'll probably consider checking here to protect my range. I like betting in this spot here, and that's what I go ahead and do. I go ahead and make it 29, and then under the gun does call. So we are still heads up to a turn, which is the king of diamonds, putting out backdoor diamonds. The under the gun checks it over to me, and I think now we have another pretty interesting decision. Against a loose and passive opponent, I think it is a really good idea to be betting for value against them. But I am a bit more hesitant too on this turn specifically, just because I talked about all the weaker one-pair hands that my opponent will be calling with on the flop. But I honestly do think they have a lot of kings in their flop floating range as well. Like if this opponent had king-queen offsuit or king-jack offsuit, I actually think it's very likely that they would float that on the flop just because of their loose passive tendencies. So I am somewhat concerned I'm behind on the king here. But even if I'm not behind on the king, I think this is going to be a bit of a scare card for some of the worst hands that my opponent will want to continue with. If they have any of the ace-7, ace-6 or ace-5, I think those hands are going to be pretty reluctant to keep calling on this turn unless they have the diamond draw as well. So it is a pretty close spot whether to bet here or not. The more I think about it, I think betting for value here probably is still good, just because the board is wetter now. Like obviously any 8 or any 4 was already an open-ended straight draw, but now there's backdoor diamonds as well. My opponent can definitely float the flop with king-queen or king-jack, but he can also float with, ace-2 of diamonds, ace-jack of diamonds, stuff like that. That's definitely going to put more money in the pot now. The fact that I don't have the 10 of diamonds myself actually makes me really like betting this turn better. So the more and more I think about it, I actually think this is a really good spot to double barrel and just keep betting the pot for value against this type of opponent. As played though, I do decide to check it back. I think this play is a bit too conservative, and I am losing value from an opponent who is going to be calling very wide, even on this scare card turn. I do regret that decision a bit. Having said that though, there is merit to checking when my opponent definitely could have improved, and a lot of their worst hands are going to be scared. As played though, I check it back and we get to see a river for free, which is the 5 of clubs. Then under the gun checks it over to me, and I think in this spot I am definitely want to go ahead and bet for value. If my opponent did float the flop with king-queen, king-jack, I think it's very likely that they would just bet that hand into me on the river, hoping to bet for value. Obviously, there is some chance that I'm behind a hand like a 5, maybe like ace-5 that wants to check raise on the river, but that's the only thing I'm really worried about. I think if my opponent had a full house here, they would have raised earlier in the hand. If they had a straight, the same thing. So I really just think I'm ahead so often here. My opponent can obviously have like 8-7, ace-7, pocket 8s, pocket 9s. So obviously we want to bet for value from those hands. I think the interesting decision point here is what size do I want to bet?
do I want to bet like smaller, something like, 50 or like 40, something in that range to price in those weaker one pair hands? Or is it just a simple case of I have the best hand here, my opponent likes to call, I should go ahead and bet as much as I possibly can for value? And I think it's a very interesting question, and there's obviously a lot of merit to both of those lines. I decide to go ahead and bet 99 here, and my thinking is, like I alluded to just before, my opponent likes to call. I'm like 98% sure I do have the best hand here, so why not just try and make as much as possible when my opponent does call? Obviously, there might be a bit of elasticity between a bet of 99 and 50, for example, in which case, obviously, you would make more money by betting 50, but I'm really not convinced that there is that much elasticity when their opponent is so loose passive. I bet 99, then my opponent tanks a bit before throwing in the call. Ooh, we like to hear that news. We show our pocket tens, and then my opponent showed ace-6 of spades. So there you go. My opponent did call down with a weaker one pair hand. We were able to maximize our value here by taking note of my opponent's loose passive tendencies and exploiting them for the maximum. So absolutely stoked with this hand history. Let me know what you think though. Hop in the comments below. Let me know how you would play this hand. Obviously on the turn, it is a pretty close spot, and I will be curious to hear what you guys prefer doing. On the turn, do you go ahead and bet it for value, or do you take the more cautious line and just check? Hop in the comments below. Let me know your thought. Always super keen to interact with you guys and get your opinions on these hand histories. Before we wrap up today's vlog, I am moving apartments, as I've told you guys already, 3 days time. The move is so close now, and I am absolutely stoked and excited to be moving to a bigger house. We're not even moving to another apartment, we're moving to a proper house this time. I'm going to have so much more space to film these vlogs, to get more content out for you guys, and I'm so excited for that. Does mean though that this might potentially be the last vlog from this apartment. So we've filmed a lot inside this apartment. In fact, I only think we've left it a few times since I have started making the online poker vlogs. So it's going to be a bit of an emotional goodbye to leave this place. Obviously, we've gone through a lot together, both me, Elizabeth, and my viewers out there. Thanks for riding with me through all of it. Like I've said, this move has definitely affected my consistency putting out these vlogs. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be more so the case of that going forward for the next few weeks. I do want to make vlogs from a stationary computer, but I'm going to have to wait until I get to the new place to buy the computer. Once we get that all sorted though, the quality of these vlogs is going to increase a lot. I've been listening to all of your criticisms in terms of my audio, in terms of you want to see screenshots, you want to see graphs, all of that cool stuff. It's going to be much easier for me to do when I do have the computer set up at the new place, but it's going to take just a bit of time for me to get everything sorted. In the meantime, I do hope to make more vlogs just on my phone like I've been doing. I'm going to try and get some out, but if I do slack with consistency even more than I already have been, I do apologize for that. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for watching as always. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel grow. If you have already, click subscribe. Thank you. You're the best. For now, we're out of this apartment, and I'm out of here. Peace.